For some 27 years, the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association has had their sticky little fingers in the business of concealed carry permits in Nevada. On March 4th, 2024, the Concealed Carriers Union of America declared all-out war on the Sheriffs Association, provoked by charges of misrepresentation, collusion, conflict of interest, mismanagement, neglect, and fraud. In 1997, the state legislature gave the NVSCA a minor role in concealed carry permits for the purpose of assisting sheriff's departments in achieving uniformity in the CCW courses each sheriff would approve. The association was given no power beyond simply creating training standards for sheriffs to follow. They certainly were not given any power to grant or revoke licenses of permittees or instructors. The Concealed Carriers Union is absolutely right to be furious about this. In 1997, Eric Cooper, a lobbyist for the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association, lied to the state Senate when he said that the association would only certify contents of the courses, not instructors. Today, the association is not only decertifying instructors, but they are conducting investigations, receiving unauthorized police records, taking administrative actions against instructors, and revoking instructor licenses. Concealed carry permits are a matter of constitutional rights. Concealed carry is not, as LVMPD says on their website, a privilege. In fact, the Supreme Court recently clarified that the right to carry a firearm outside the home for personal protection is in fact a constitutional right. On a micro level, the issue with the NVSCA being involved in the administration of a constitutional right raises serious concerns about separation of powers. This concern is highlighted by the fact that many of the people on the CCW permit side at sheriff's departments are also members of the NVSCA. For example, Sergeant James O'Leary was the sergeant for the CCW detail who investigated Nephi Kiki in 2022, while also serving on the CCW subcommittee at the NVSCA. This is a major conflict of interest that not only taints due process, but is the equivalent of a detective simultaneously serving on the jury in the same case. The Concealed Carriers Union is absolutely right to be furious about this.
A well-known concept derived from the text and structure of the Constitution is the doctrine of what is commonly called separation of powers. The framers' experience with the British monarchy informed their belief that concentrating distinct governmental powers in a single entity would subject the nation's people to arbitrary and oppressive government action. Thus, in order to preserve individual liberty, the framers sought to ensure that a separate and independent branch of the federal government would exercise each of government's three basic functions: legislative, executive, and judicial.
So what does a war between the Concealed Carriers Union and the Nevada Sheriffs Association actually look like? For starters, the NVSCA doesn't believe they are in a war, and that will prove to be to their utter detriment. The person leading the charge against the association is none other than Nephi Kiki, Director of Strategic Operations for the CCUA, and a seasoned political operative who has more than a few dragon heads on his wall. If the Sheriff's Association doesn't think they're in a war, they will know it once Kiki starts picking them off one by one. Recently, Kiki served court documents on family court judge Arthur Ritchie at his personal residence. The judge was furious and threatened to call the FBI and court security to report the harassment, despite the fact that the statute required personal service. The judge went on a "do you know who I am" tirade, to which Kiki simply bemused, "I'm not married and I don't have kids. I doubt very much you'll ever have a chance to get me." This is the same thing that happened when Kiki crashed the NVSCA's annual convention and had the director, Pamela Del Porto, served with a summons right in the middle of their luncheon. The only reason Kiki knew where the association would be at the time was because the director, Pamela Del Porto accidentally invited Kiki to the event and included the email address for every one of their members in the invitation. That one's going to hurt for a long, long time. Not only does that give Kiki a list of emails, it gives him the ability to start digging into the backgrounds of individual members the same way they illegally dug into him. The only difference is, Kiki is a master at finding things people don't want found. If there is dirt, Kiki will find it. Out of the some 250 members of the NVSCA, one of them is bound to have some dirty little secret, and one is all it will take. This is spookily how Kiki's former partner, Lou Colagiovanni, came into possession of Congressman Anthony Weiner's infamous sexting photos. The woman involved in the scandal, Sydney Elaine Leathers, got a little drunk one night in Vegas and gave up the photos without even asking for money. The point is, everyone has dirt. For cops, 53% of them experience divorce, typically related to work issues. 17% have an addiction. 57% of those addictions are alcohol-related, with pornography coming in close second, and 25% of them have suicidal thoughts. That's a pretty good place to start looking. Finding that kind of information usually involves talking to an ex-wife. Perhaps a brief stroll down memory lane with how deep Kiki can dig will shed some light on the subject. Take a moment to watch an excerpt from the award-winning independent film, What Happened in Vegas, by Ramsey Dennison, which uncovers Joe Lombardo's relationship with convicted real estate fraudster William Gaylor, who had a child with Lombardo's wife, Donna. That's a pretty impressive dig for even the most experienced investigator. This is the person the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association is facing. When scandals involving members of the NVSCA start mysteriously appearing in the news, the NVSCA will know, beyond a reasonable doubt, that they are in a war. And if this is just a taste of what war with Kiki looks like, what would a ceasefire look like? What could end this war? The NVSCA can end this war by self-correcting, said Nephi Kiki, Director of Strategic Operations for the Concealed Carriers Union. When the association removes themselves from any roles not specifically assigned to them by the state legislature, that will be the end of it. For now, sit back and watch the master work his magic.